And Jean-Eric Vergne also improving there as well in the Citroën. Dennis now on the bubble here as well. And I don't think Gunter's going to trouble him. No, he doesn't. Stays 8th fastest. So Oliver Rowland, the reigning world champion, is out of qualifying in the group stages here in Sao Paulo. Let's get confirmation, though, of those results from Group A qualifying here for the Google Cloud Sao Paulo E-Prix. Da Costa, Vergne, Mortara and Jake Dennis are your top 4 that progress forwards from Group A into the duels. Now, Taylor Barnard, next up in the DS Penske. New team for him also in the Season 12 calendar. Across the line, into the wall on the outside. So Barnard will come across the line, doesn't improve. Well, he improves in time, but goes up to 7th quickest, but clipped the wall on the exit of the final corner there. So confirmation of the Group B classification then. Norman Nato, quickest of the lot. He goes through and into the duels and will be joined by Pascal Wehrlein. Nick de Vries and Dan Ticktum also in there as well. We've got Edo Mortara versus Jean-Eric Vergne. Mahindra versus Citroën. Jeff has left a little bit of time on the table here, about half a second or so away, as you say, and you can see that and hear the tyres chirping away there as he tried to get the car stopped for turn 10.
You can see how confident Eduardo Mortara is with his car in comparison to Jeff there, especially going through turn 10.
So Mortara then goes through from the first of the quarterfinal duels here in Sao Paulo. Quarterfinal 2 though, Jake Dennis in the Andretti versus Antonio Felix da Costa. Is da Costa going to be out of qualifying in the group stages? In the duels rather, he is, and it comes across the line a 10th of a second slower than Jake Dennis when all said and done. Quarterfinal 3 then, Nick de Vries in the Mahindra versus Pascal Wehrlein in the Porsche.
This is a big lap from Pascal Wehrlein.
Well, just to give you an idea of the time we saw for pole last year, it was a 1:09.851. We could be seeing the better of that here only in the quarterfinal duels. De Vries, a 1:10.2 across the line, but what about Wehrlein? He comes across and absolutely obliterates that, a 1:09.882. So not the quickest time that we've seen around this Sao Paulo circuit. Quarterfinal 4 though, Dan Ticktum versus Norman Nato. Here is Dan Ticktum. Will he be enough to out-qualify Norman Nato, who's dropped even more time in the second sector? Ticktum across the line, a 1:10.1. That's not the quickest time that we've seen so far in the dual stages, but it's quicker than Norman Nato. And he's losing more time still in this third and final sector, is the Frenchman. He comes out of the final turn, comes across the timing line, and eventually ends up 0.3 of a second away from the Briton. Cooper Kiro and Dan Ticktum qualify into the semi-finals here in Sao Paulo. Well, a reminder of how we got here then. This is your lineup for the semi-finals. In quarterfinal 1, we have Mortara versus Vergne, Dennis versus da Costa, de Vries versus Wehrlein, Ticktum versus Nato. Yeah, really good here for Eduardo Mortara. More of the same for the last couple of corners for the twist driver. Out of the final turn of 11, and across the line we go. Neat and tidy for him. A 1:10.068, but Dennis has picked up time in the second sector. All eyes now on the Season 9 world champion. We come down and through to turn 10. Can he get it all hooked up nicely? This is going to be very close here between Mortara and Dennis. Just over 100th of a second in it between these two drivers. Across the line we go. Dennis versus Mortara, and Dennis does it by 3/100ths of a second. He out-qualifies Eduardo Mortara. Semi-final 2 then. Dan Ticktum versus Pascal Wehrlein. Ticktum's catching in this final sector. Out of turn 11 we go, and across the timing line for the British driver, it's a 1:09.8, so he matches and even betters the time set by Wehrlein in the quarterfinals. But is Wehrlein about to better his own time and out-qualify Dan Ticktum? Across the line we go, and he does it by 7/100ths of a second. Wehrlein is through and into the finals for the first time in Season 12. Some breaking news to bring you here from the commentary box. We said about the wheel spin in pit lane and it being prohibited as a result of a regulations change. Pascal Wehrlein has been given a 3-place grid penalty for wheel spinning in the pit lane then.
Unbelievable. I don't know what to say.
Jake Dennis is on pole position.
Pascal Wehrlein going head-to-head against one another.
It was sector 2 and 3 where Jake was really strong in both the quarters and the semi-finals.
Berline increasing that advantage still in the second sector. Out of the final corner we go for Jake Dennis across the line. It's a 1:10.1, so he did lose time in that first sector, and that cost him throughout the remainder of the lap. Pascal Berline nearly 0.3 of a second in his back pocket as he comes out of the final corner and will be across the timing line to be the quickest man in the dual finals to what would have been pole position, but he will now start at best of 4th place. However, he does bag those all-important 3 points and, of course, the Julius Baer pole position trophy there as well. But Pascal Berline then, well, damage limitation, exactly what he needed to do there in the circumstances, and of course he now gets 3 points off the board there as well.